Rich people ask how much. Broke people, and I've been both, brother, okay? Broke people ask how much down and how much a month.
Hey, this is Manny with Not Waiting to Live, and in this video, I'm going to cover how much of a difference there is between buying and leasing a car. And I'm making this video as a former Mercedes-Benz car salesman because I think that most car buyers lose sight of the big picture and how much they're actually spending over the time that they own that vehicle. And for this video, I'm going to cover a couple basic fundamental categories that are relevant whether you're buying or leasing a car. And that's the negotiation, the down payment, interest rate, depreciation, sales tax, fees. How are these things different whether you buy or lease? I'm going to give you those answers, and that's going to inform you, give you the tools to negotiate for yourself moving forward on your next vehicle purchase and ultimately find and make the right decision for you. But before I dive into that, I do want to give a shout out to the sponsor of this video, and that's findthebestcarprice.com. They're a great resource for self-help guides on negotiation in the vehicle market, and they're also probably the best resource that I've seen for collecting the current lease promotions for all the manufacturers, easy to sort and find and update right when you're buying your next car. So give them a shout out. Thank them for being a sponsor by checking out their website. But let's get started. Negotiation. If you see my other videos about car negotiation, there is no difference. Whether you're buying a car or you're leasing that car, there is no difference in negotiation. I actually recommend not mentioning that you're leasing until you've agreed to the price of the vehicle, because that's the elephant in the room. Get that squared away, then have them run it up as a lease. If they come back and say, well, that was the price we were going to give you if you were buying, just walk away. And they'll either chase after you, or you can give that number to the next dealership and they'll give you that deal. So it's equal for all intents and purposes. But the next line items I want to talk about here is down payment and interest rate. They have kind of an interesting relationship, and it's probably based on your credit score more than you might realize. If you have good credit, and we're talking about above 680 in this situation, the down payment isn't really going to matter whether you buy or lease. It's going to be about the same. That might be zero down payment. If they might require a minimal down payment just for that specific manufacturer's financial institution, or if you're leasing through a third party, it should be more or less the same. And it's the same with the interest rates. They're so low nowadays, but in general, leasing gives the lender more certainty because there's an agreed upon condition that you're going to return this car in. They're willing to put a little bit more confidence in the rates that they supply with for those vehicles. And so for that reason, if you don't have good credit, if you're in 620, maybe in the 680 range, and you're kind of a minimum qualifier, this could actually be an opportunity where maybe the interest rate they quote you for buying the car might be 6%, but the equivalent interest rate for leasing might only be 2.4%. There's actually could be an arbitrage opportunity there. So for the purposes of this video, we're going to assume that's about equal, but there is a little bit of game to be played sometimes where if you have bad credit, you could actually get a lower interest rate by leasing just due to how leasing is structured at this time. Now, the next category I want to talk about is depreciation, and this is really something I think most people don't understand when they talk about leasing. A lot of people view it as renting or throwing money, lighting money on fire, and that's not the case. Ownership, when you're talking about buying a car, you're talking about open-ended, undefined ownership. How long are you going to own this car for? I don't know. What kind of condition are you keeping it in? I don't know. If the tail light breaks, are you going to fix it? I don't know. Open-ended, undefined. Leasing is managed ownership. So there are agreed upon terms in advance. You agree how long you're going to use the car or drive the car for, how many years that's going to take place over, what condition you're going to return the car in, and at the end, in the beginning, you agree to that sales price at the end in advance. That's called the residual value. And then there's so many people, when I was a car salesman, people would sit down and I'd ask them, what do you think the car that you came in today to buy will sell for? And most people were confused by that question. They didn't have an answer, but most people are also disappointed in the trade-in value of their vehicle. So when it comes time to actually trading in the vehicle, they're miffed every time as to why it's not worth as much as they thought it was. Well, leasing addresses that issue. So when we're talking about depreciation, it's important to compare apples to apples. A lot of these leasing versus buying conversations go on a tangent because someone's comparing buying a 3-year-old car and owning it for 10 years to buying a brand new car and owning it for 3 years and 36,000 miles. Well, that's not apples to apples. Like, if you want to have that conversation, then let's all ride the bus, because we're not going to get anywhere making a financial comparison that way. So a website that I find useful, one of the websites I use is caredge.com, and they are able to give you a sense of how a car might depreciate over time. To be certain, you need to contact that specific dealer, manufacturer, to figure out what their residual value will be. But to give you a ballpark idea of what that might be, you can look that up on caredge.com, get a general sense of that. And these depreciation values are going to vary dramatically on each car. So that's going to affect what you're actually paying on a lease. And yet another reason why it's not fair to compare a 3-year-old Corolla to leasing a brand new Jeep. But another interesting topic to point out in this category, or on this topic, is is the difference in sales tax. So in most states, you only have to pay sales tax on the depreciated portion of the vehicle. Some states will require you to pay sales tax on the whole vehicle. So if you buy a $25,000 car and you owe 10% sales tax on that car, when you buy the car, you owe $2,500 in sales tax. If you lease that car and you're only paying for that depreciated portion, right? So what you bought it for minus what you're going to trade it in for, your sales tax could be half that. If you buy a $25,000 car, turn it in at $12,500, you're only paying $1,250 in sales tax. That's something to be cognizant of, especially as you get higher up in the dollar values of what a car costs, because there's a game to be played there. It's relevant to your specific state, so you need to understand what the leasing practice is in that state. Some states, even if they let you tax into the depreciation portion, some of them lump it into the monthly payment, some make you pay that up front. There's a whole game to be played on the topic of sales tax, but you need to be crystal clear with yourself about how that's working out for you in your specific situation. And then lastly, the fees. Probably the biggest downside of leasing is the fees, because everything else is pretty well understood. And I have a video where I answer my top 11 questions that are frequently asked about leasing, be able to answer all those questions for you there. But the fees that you're going to see for leasing is going to be an acquisition fee, which is commonly the fee that the financial institution charges for putting together the lease. That could range $400, $900. It's tough to negotiate this line item, but if you kind of get a sense of how we've gone so far, there's not too much of a difference between buying a car and leasing on an apples to apples comparison basis. But these fees are one of them. So that extra $800, you're in the hole. The other thing to consider is a turn-in fee, a disposition fee. This is a fee that would be charged when you turn in that lease, if you decide to turn in that lease at the end of the term. That fee usually, in my experience, I've found is negotiable and waivable with a comment as simple as, hey, I'm not going to pay that. So that doesn't make sense to me. Whether I lease with you or not, I don't want to pay it, but many dealers will make an offer to you. If you lease again with them, that fee will be waived. If you decide to not lease again with them, that fee will be assessed at the end. So in the big picture, how much of a difference is there between buying and leasing? And to paint with the broadest brush, in the most general terms about the typical situations, you might end up paying $1,000, $2,000 more leasing compared to buying a car under the exact same conditions. So, and let's look at those line items again. Where is that cost difference coming from? It's not coming from the negotiation, that's the same. It's not coming from the down payment, that's your money one way or another. shouldn't come from the interest rate, although it could. I mean, if you got a 0% buy offer versus a 2.4% lease offers, money's going to be different there. But interest rates are so low; those are generally pretty equal. One area it could come from is the depreciation, but that's a double-sided sword, because think about how uncertain the times have been in the last year, how crazy this has been. A manufacturer is placing a bet that car with that many mileage is worth that price to them years from now, in the future. When that date comes, and this has been happening for as long as people have been leasing cars, the turn-in date comes, maybe the market values that car a little bit more. So you could just buy the lease out, sell it at market price, assuming there's enough of a difference in the sales taxes that you're going to pay that's worth your time. You could also get burned by depreciation, where you have to buy out the car for some certain price, and you could have bought that exact same car down the block for $1,000 less. So you could get burned on the depreciation, but so could they. It's a gamble both ways. In general, I think the leaser is actually probably more protected in the big scheme of things. And then, we look at the sales tax. That's the advantage of the leaser. So you could actually save some money in some certain situations in most of the country because of how you pay sales tax differently on a lease. And then the fees, that's really where you start behind the 8 ball, because your acquisition fee, you're negative $800, $900, negative $1,200 to start. So it is worth your time, because that is where you start negative with, to contact these dealers, find out, what is your acquisition fee for leasing only after, or unrelated to your negotiation, but after you found the car you want and the price you want to pay. So let's thank our sponsor, findthebestcarprice.com. Check their website out. They really do a great job. And again, I thank them for making this video possible, because as I mentioned in my videos, you gotta like the videos, you gotta comment if you can. This is the way the YouTube algorithm picks up my content, gives my channel more exposure, it gives me the incentive to make more videos like this. I wanna make more videos. I got a new camera, I don't know if you noticed, I changed the logo. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I'm ready to make more videos, I'm out there. So let me know what you think, and hopefully there'll be another one here soon.